Hi, hello, and welcome to a new podcast episode of Integrated Awakenings. It's Maria, and today we're talking about somatics. This is one of my favorite topics ever, so I'm very excited to just geek out about it with y'all, but also to give you a very free and intuitive manner of exploring and seeing what this could be for you. Okay, so for people who are new to the word, somatics means of the body. It's basically exploring how you interface, how your consciousness, how you're aware with your body, manipulating how you frame your body, how you feel into your body, so that you get all the great benefits of being with your body in a great way. Now, the thing is, when we're not yet in our healing processes, we pick up a lot of patterns, postures, energies. That's just from the environment, So if you go to the mall and you see a family walking together, notice how their postures and manner of walking is kind of similar. The way they slouch, where they put their weight on, and even other folks, if it's like they have impeccable posture, you'd notice even the kids would have nice posture. So that's the thing. The thing with how we relate to our body is that it's very monkey see, monkey do. What you were exposed to, you've kind of mimicked / developed. So it means that depending, especially for like cultural differences, depending on your environments, how malleable and susceptible you are, and also how conscious you are with how you change your body, you would be really influenced, and you might be unconscious of the things that you're picking up. So for example, somebody who's a Filipino who suddenly moves to New York is suddenly feeling a little tired because they need to gesture so much, because a lot of New York folks, and this is from a dancer friend, from a somatics dancer friend, a lot of our friends from New York expend a lot of out energy. Like they push energy out and occupy a lot of space, and there's this kind of that shift, right? That baseline shift can be tiring. Yeah. And that's the thing, it kind of mimics the whole energy of New York, of being like the city that never sleeps, that keeps doing everything. So see how our body mannerisms, our body cultures, is something that is within the cultural system, but also is just transmitted by being with one another. When we try to connect with people, we tend to subconsciously try to mirror their posture. Like, for example, they're crossing their legs, you're also crossing your legs. And the thing is, if I know that sometimes you could consciously do that as an empathetic technique, but we do that all the time. Yeah, because as human beings, we want to feel connected. We want to feel like we belong. And so our postures, our energies could really get tangled up in some weird stuff because we're trying to copy things. One of the biggest imprints is definitely our parents, but even with like mental, emotional stuff, that's like one of the biggest baggages that you drop first as you progress through life. So yeah, where do we start? Okay, where do we start? Okay, so first of all, I really want to say that I feel like there's nobody who doesn't have some kind of physical thing, some physical manifestation that doesn't bother them. So somebody could be prone to migraines. Somebody can be prone to their body heating up, like quote unquote laging naiinitan, like it's like I'm sweating buckets, right? Or it could be something like vertigo, right? Or you getting cramps isn't a good example, because it's more nutrition. I need something that's more somatic. Feeling depressed. So not just feeling in terms of our emotional body, but like your body is like, it's like lethargic. It's like wet from the inside, right? Okay, here's the thing. if you've listened to my other podcasts, you would know that you could balance your body alchemy through other ways. So, for example, you could eat food that has a bit more energy. For example, your body's really warm, drink really cold water. That's very basic alchemy, but also that is how all food magic works. It's just a balancing of elements and temperatures. So think if you're having vertigo, something that with roots and something that's very stabilizing is good for you. Now, okay, I'm just saying that you could incorporate these energies via food. But the thing with somatics is, what if you just imagined consuming and participating in that other energy? So something as simple as, my body is always warm, right? For example, somebody says, my body's always warm, and they have liver problems. Okay, so in Chinese medicine, that means they have a lot of anger, and liver produces a lot of heat, right? And then imagine if they drink a lot of alcohol, and then they're like an angry drunk, and they're a masculine person, so they have a tendency towards just getting road rage angry. So there's just a lot of heat, right? So anything that is cooling, so it's not just cold water, but cooling in a sense that, for example, a friend who has a very cooling nature, or music that feels like an oasis, or even locations that have like a lot of blue, teal, like green feng shui, or even just like a lake, like a placid lake. Won't you think that those energies will also be balanced? Do you see what I'm getting here? So what I'm saying is that these body flirts of ours is like a whole freaking map of how our energies are behaving, and the way to respond those energies is also just as rich. Yeah? Now, with somatics though, so the goal of somatics is for you to be, one, aware, and then two, I want you to be, at least for me, I want you to be equipped. So the thing is, so for example, you're the angry person. What if you don't have access to that cooling water / cooling lake / cooling location? Right. Okay. Here's the thing. What if you just imagine yourself with that cooling person? That's the whole concept of tapping into deities, saints, guides, or even just imagining a person who you feel like would give you that cooling, restful energy. And don't you feel yourself like diffuse like a bomb, right? And then the thing with somatics is, what if you take a step further, and what if you don't even need a person / object? What if you just welcome cooling energies, like from the top of your forehead down to your feet? You just remind yourself of all the times when you were diffused in a really nice waterfalls or a really nice cool bath. Like it was the perfect day of autumn, or the rainy season, or even just, wow, that one beautiful memory of rain you had when you were a kid, playing in the rain. So you're just steeped with water, right? So the thing is, our body already has so much memory of cooling and soothing that we don't always have to get these signatures and textures from the external environment. We don't actually need to be physically wet, right? Your cells remember times when you were soothed and when you were actually physically wet. So drink in that watery and cooling nature. Almost like visualize it on top of your head and down to your feet, because the thing is, heat goes up, right? So cooling nature is something that usually starts from the top of your head and then down to your feet. Yeah. And it works. This is why people say that when someone's, like, for example, your hubby's angry, you want to stroke his chest downwards, because that's how you bring the wind down. Yeah, so it's these cool little small things that you might have noticed in film, acting / intuitively. Like you knew that you kind of needed to, whoa, calm down. Like it's in our language. But we might have never really noticed that it was talking about the body's energies slash alchemy. Yeah. So we might be talking about anger management, but we don't talk about how it manifests on the body or even how to address that elemental energy of fire. Okay? Yeah. Yeah. Do you see where I am getting at? Do you see where I'm getting at? So what I'm offering you is that I want you to figure out the primary chronic thing that you don't feel too sexy about. Yeah. So maybe you feel stuffy a lot or you feel damp a lot. Some people who have a lot of water placements feel this way. Like you feel damp a lot, or for example, my example, which is you feel too warm, right? Okay, so I want you to figure out what your elemental nature is. Okay, and usually it's quite obvious. If you don't have one, it either means, okay, so air is basically your thoughts are all over the place. You tend to have a very like light, transparent-ish body. You eat light, and there's this, how do you say this? There's this easy distance from you. Like if it's astrology, very Aquarius energy of feeling distant, right? So the air nature tends to, if you can't ground and relate to people, you kind of need people who feel more weighted and less floaty, right? And then people who have a lot of earth energies can feel stuck, so I'm talking about like the bad manifestations. Okay, so usually people wouldn't complain about good things, right? So if you have an excess of earth, it can mean that you feel stuck, like your life's not moving. Your body can feel bleh, right? Like you don't want to move slash change, and things they could feel boring. In the body, this feels very heavy. Yeah, like, oh my God, I have no motivation to do things, right? It's like, oh, it's the same thing again. Nothing interests me, right? That's stagnancy. Yeah, that's weight, right? Yeah, because if this was fire and it's like stuck, you'll just be going crazy, right? You're gonna be like a little firework that's trapped in a box, or like a volcano that can't escape, right? So an earth nature of this wouldn't feel like that. An earth nature would feel immovable in a bad way. Yeah. Water, the bad manifestation of water tends to be very muggy, like as if it lacks circulation. Because the thing with water is that it really loves flow. So think about rain, rivers, fountains, and the ocean. It's always like in this movement. So water, when it's bad, is usually it feels stuck. It feels muggy, like it feels stuffy. There's not enough circulation. So usually air would be very beneficial for that. So thoughts, open spaces, but also thinking of a big sky, Okay, anyway, the bad manifestation of air is if you are overthinking. You feel like you're a crazy kite in the sky and you can't feel the ground, right? You are spiraling in thought loops, and it's like you cannot stop. You cannot stop your own brain, right? So think of the kite where it's like it's going crazy up there, and it's like, oh my God, I can't pull it down. That's what air feels like. So anyway, wow, see, your knowledge of Avatar was helpful. Avatar: The Last Airbender. Anyway, so here's the thing. Figure out your elemental nature. If you don't have a specific element you're kind of drawn to, people are usually a bit of a mix. Natal charts can be close to what I'm talking about, especially if you leaned into them, but sometimes you have chart progressions, you grew older, you leaned into different aspects as you grow older. So I do want you to feel into this just directly with your body. Please don't do advanced math just to figure this out. Also, just hot and cold is also a good diagnosis. So, for example, somebody who lacks a lot of circulation intuitively has a cold body. Yeah? Like, that's normal stuff. Even if you're not a doctor, that should be something that's a logical thing. Okay, now you have like your first picture. It could be like a diagnosis thing. Now, since we don't want to pathologize stuff, let's just say it's your check-in. Yeah? So that's your check-in. Okay. Next question. What kind of energy would benefit you? Okay. Now, I want you to have fun with this. Okay. So some people, based on what I just said, would give elemental, natural nature stuff to address whatever they're having problems with. So, for example, the kite might gain rocks, might gain like a person, like latches onto the kite and like tunnels them down, anything that makes them feel heavy. So, it could be roots, it could be a tree. But think of very heavy jewelry, think of chains, think of BDSM chains, think of punching the ground. Yeah. So this is what I'm saying about you could get very creative with this, because the only thing to check if things are working is that if it resonates with your body. Yeah. So usually the prompt for this would be whatever feels good. Yeah. I know that if this is totally new to you, you'd be like, oh my God, Maria didn't have a suggestion. That's so overwhelming. I just need to make stuff up. Okay, so if you really want like instructions, like more specific instructions, go for like a nature aspect. So if you're welcoming earth, think heavy rocks, think mountains. If you're welcoming fire, think of the sun, think of really hot days, think of like campfires even, or even lighting a matchstick. And if you're thinking of water, I like rivers a lot and waterfalls, but some people might need like a larger body, like an ocean. Yeah. And for air, usually being on top of like a cliff or a mountain, or even lying down on the floor and just looking up the sky and looking at clouds. Yeah, there's something about air that has a very infinite, expansive nature. Anywho, okay, the reason why I emphasize on exploring what works for you is because the body imagery that you get from your body, in terms of like your ailments and like what works for you, usually says something deeper about you and is actually just a really cool thing to discover. Yeah, like there's that possibility, and I just don't want to take that away from you, especially for people who are like more used to meditations that have a lot of visualizations. I just want to give you like a lot of permission to really explore. My only tip is that balance out the energies that you saw. So, okay. For example, so let's go with the angry person, right? Okay, so if you think about the waterfalls, think about what if your fiery dragon of anger is intertwining with a watery river dragon of calmness, and they intertwine like this healing scepter, right? Or they become cords of a fabric that's being knotted together, and thus the fire slowly becomes something more solid and tactile and more still because it's a cord now. Do you see where I'm going with this? Do you see how crazy it could go? And now that's the thing. So when I do somatic sessions, I ask spirit for what images best help someone to transmute these body flirts. So usually some people, I just see these things, like for example, some people have swords, some people have cyclones, and somehow that specific language of, for example, a cyclone really best encapsulates what kind of energy is ripping outside of them. Like, oh, it's a fast vortex of energy, right? That's trying to release a lot of forcefulness, but destruction, but also air, right? So that's what I'm saying. That's where your intuition can go to. But if you're new to this, I want you to just do the elemental diagnosis. Okay. So that's one. That's exercise one. That's like one thing I want you to try when you're stuck in line, in traffic, when you're doing groceries, you're just playing with your energies. You're just checking, yeah. So if you're like in the frozen section of the grocery, I want you to imagine like a really warm, fiery cloak. Yeah, and see if you could actually manipulate your body heat slash energy. This is really fun because when I got really good at this, I could be in really cold areas in the United States, and I would take off so many layers of my jacket. It was almost like the Wim Hof method, but the Wim Hof has like really crazy breathing techniques, but this was just pure like internal visualization of I was just harnessing my internal fires, wrapping myself with the flames of the Holy Spirit, and then I was just warm. Yeah. I was also invoking the redwood forest, but yeah, because that thing catches on fire a lot. So anyway, yeah, he's my friend. But yeah, so anyway, my point is that I didn't even need jackets during that time because I could manipulate my body temperature. And this is what a lot of yogis do when they hike a lot of sacred mountains. They just really have a lot of independence of what their energy body feels like because they've learned how to manipulate and wield it. So I'm just saying you could get to that. You could get to that. You just need to explore it. Right? Yeah. Okay. So if you don't want to do any diagnosis, if you don't want to it's like, oh, Maria, I don't want to process my anger management or my chronic pain's kind of like a big thing that I have too much emotional baggage around. And don't you have any somatic tips that's more, more basic, more, it's just general wellness. It's just something that's foolproof. What if I don't want to be specific? What if I just want something that's good, right? Okay. I hear you. Okay, so one of the earliest meditations that I've ever done that has somatic flavors is called the Microcosmic Orbit by the Taoist people, documented by Mantak Chia, and it's basically running your energy up your spine and then down the front of your body. So from the tip of your head and then down to your root. Okay, root meaning your anal canal. Okay, so you're like a band of energy. So up your back and then down your front. Up your back, down your front. You're like a wheel, like you're a motor wheel, right? And I used to picture two fishes that would like swim up and down that little river, and it was so soothing. Like I used to do this when I was bored in mass like years ago, and it was like one of my favorite meditations because so we have a lot of energy channels throughout our energetic body, but our spine, that part of us is really, it's the spine. It's the motherboard. A lot of our nerves and even all our extra nadis and chakras, so that's like all the energy flows, all of them meet in the navel, so that's your Manipura chakra, and your spine. Okay, so that's why they're saying that in yoga you're just evolving your spine, right? So that's the thing. If you want, Maria, just give me one thing and that's the only thing I'm gonna do, just brush your spine. Brush your spine up and then put it to your navel. If you just want one thing, then just go up and down your spine. That's it. Yeah? And if you wanted to not even have a direction, just imagine feeding your spine, right? So feed it space, feed it juice, feed it energy, feed it lusciousness. If you have mantras that you like, so for example, you're working on power or Shiva Shambho, right? Intone it to the bottom of your spine, because that's like the foundational input place of your spinal channel. Yeah. So if you have that mantra, that energy / you have just this thing that you're trying to integrate, just chant it to your spine and then just watch it go up. Yeah. And if you can't think of anything, just think of if you can, wow, I'm really trying to address if you're like, I don't want to be specific. Yo, you could just say yes or even yeah. So has like a lot of scientific benefits in terms of like the sound itself because it resonates a lot of centers on your body. Okay, so just trust me on that. You could Google it if you want, but if you really want an instruction, just do an to your spine. Yeah. Or spine or say yes. Yeah? Say yes. Just almost notice what your spine is like and just say yes to it. Yeah? That's why a lot of people have kundalini practices and it's like an energy that's unlocked in the base of your spine. It goes up and then it also goes down. And it's naturally intelligence for your spiritual evolution. But I'm not even saying all of this for you to develop your kundalini awakening. Nah, man. I don't have that intention. My intention is that is your motherboard and just feed it properly. Yeah. Because if you were actually trying to awaken your kundalini, you would be gently like thrusting your tailbone forward so that you would like tap her / that snake up, right? And also there's like a whole yoga sutra practice towards that. So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about somatics. So for somatics, okay, so we talked about elemental stuff, and then we talked about Maria, I don't want anything complicated. What's like the basic thing you would suggest? So there's the spine. See, I didn't even talk about posture. That's the thing. If you do these explorations with your spine, it naturally corrects itself. I'm not even gonna try to pull your ears up or try to roll your shoulders. If you just intone this energy and just really explore your body, this will naturally happen. A lot of therapeutic techniques like Feldenkrais method, and there's another one that I'm trying to think of that's about posture correction, right? It's really about awareness. Yeah, I mean, you could shop around and look at these techniques, and if you're voracious like me, you would be like, oh, so this is how they explore it, this is how I explore it. But let me also just save you money and time and say the thing they're teaching you is awareness. So there's this whole thing where I could tell you to look at your hand and for 5 minutes just slowly move it, trying to feel for every muscle, ligament, cell, bone in it, and just get trippy with how much you feel your hand. So all those methods of body awareness, body correction, somatic transformation, all of them comes from you resensitizing and feeling your entire body. So that thing that I described about feeling into your whole hand, just do it to your whole body. And if you don't have time, just do it to your whole spine. If you have a body pain, okay, explore the body pain and then welcome the energy that best assists that body pain. Do weird images, do weird animals if you want to, do like trippy stuff and see if that somehow expresses what your body feels like. Okay, now, I know that some people might not feel too excited about the story thing. They're like, okay, what's the scientific basis of that? Or why should I even like think of stuff like that? Right? Okay, so let me tell you a few stories so that I could gently confuse / convince you. So, okay, so when I get sick, I tend to do body scans and I can tell what my body looks like. So for a time, I remember when my throat chakra was coming online. So your throat chakra has several openings when it gets activated. Okay, and it felt like I was a sword eater. And in the tarot, sword is a piercing truth, right? It's mentality, it's it's something where you have to hold it by the handle or else it will hurt you, right? So I found that when I scanned my body, wow, I was eating a sword. Whoa, so what does it say about me? Like, oh, I'm doing something dangerous. But also, I was curious. I was like, what if I pulled the sword out, right? So in my internal vision mind, right? Or even just feeling it in my body, I imagined myself like slowly, like feeling in my body that I'm pushing the sword out of my esophagus. You know, it's like a cough. It's like an actual weight, right? And as I pulled it out, not only did I feel relief, but my cough was gone. And it was clear to me that I needed, it's not really I needed to speak, but I was ready to speak. Yeah. And there were times when there was also a time when my navel felt like it was really sunken, almost like a button that's stressing out an outfit because it's like put on wrong. Like if it's like the wrong size or it's like positioned wrong. And then I felt like I had to transformers it out. Like I had to like get my hand in there and unscrew that knob and then pull it out. And then I realized that my energetic body was occupying more space and I had to make my center bigger. And then until I did that, my stomach felt upset, and it was and it's not even upset that I ate something. It was just uncomfortable. It's like an ab workout, but it didn't make sense. You know what I mean? I was like, I just feel weird. And then I figured out that I had to pull my navel chakra out. Yeah. So this is what I'm saying about how, so those are like some chakra manifestations. Some people, for example, they feel really heavy shoulders because of shame or like trying to hide, right? And it's like a weighted metallic shroud, right? So my somatic exercise for them would be to shake it off. So they would rotate their shoulders, but they would also imagine taking off this coat, and all the subliminal messages of coats would be suggested, meaning protection, meaning weather, meaning authority, even, right? You know how like kings have those coats, right? So even just shrugging that off also freed them from this sense of authority structure that was weighing them down. Do you see how beautiful this is? Do you see this? I really think that the body is so laced with so much poetry that if people were more aware of the recurring flirts inside and around their body, they would know the whole universe. Because as within, so without. So everything that's evolving inside of your energetic body is also how the whole world is evolving. And this is one of those pieces of life that you could so deeply explore and transform and lead and nourish, that I do want you to have an awareness and even just a consciousness of like, oh, okay, those are the buttons. Oh, okay, so the spine is a highly effective thing to invest on. You know what I mean? So I just want you to feel like this is something that you could really work on and discover so much about. And that's why, okay, to also give you another framework, I also do a bit of shamanism. So basically, shamanism has a lot of journeys where we go down and ask for images, and then they're called shamanic puzzles when you kind of try to figure out how to untangle that problem or what would solve that image. Yeah, so because a lot of the limbic brain, so the deeper aspects of our brain, doesn't have language yet, like words. So these very dense synapses speak in images. So those layers of reality are accessed via image. This is why being able to feel what your body is on an image level and not on a, oh my God, okay, this is my chemical diagnosis, this is the name of my disease level, having that image nature, that sensorial how do you even say that word? Phenomenological. Yeah. That phenomenal level of your body is very important, because that's how you're kind of speaking to your subconscious. No, it's not even kind of. That's how you're speaking to your subconscious. Yeah? So even, for example, my example of that person with like that heavy coat, that's not just us making up stories. That's how her subconscious is expressing through her body. The reason why she feels heavy is because her subconscious thinks there's this coat that's protecting her. Yeah? So the thing with somatic work is that we are shrugging off the coat, and we're not... I mean, yes, you could unpack the story of like the coat and stuff, but you could just also just shrug it off. Yeah? You don't always have to overanalyze, overprocess stuff. You don't always have to know everything. Yeah? Sometimes something... You know how leaves and fruits fall off of trees when they're ready, and you don't need to... they don't need to submit like a I'm quitting report to be like, oh, I quit being this part of the tree. No, it just falls off, right? So there's that thing with like these energies on our body that we don't always need to eulogize, pathologize / mythologize why they're happening, right? So I gave very convenient stories for like the sword on my throat, for like my navel chakra button thing. But even if you don't have a story for like whatever, so for example, you imagined like water on top of your head or like your spine, you just did an Om and you just felt like this heavy weight released. Okay, just release it, bro. You don't need to have an explanation for it. If you feel lighter, if you feel better, if you feel more aligned, if you feel like more of yourself, also just gently release the idea that you need to understand everything for something to be useful. Yeah, because our body, just think of animals, think of people who are very kinesthetically biased. So think of people who are neurodivergent, who don't have as much mental capacity, or people who just are very embodied, like they speak via their body. They could transmit, understand, comprehend, process, and not have words. They just get it. You know what I mean? It's like, for example, you have an animal and then you're like, oh, you're okay. It's okay. It's okay. They don't actually know what it's okay means, but it's the energy and they get it. Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to communicate about your body, where it's like, yo, I know that you want to understand the story sometimes and that you do want to know. And I know that's like your self-awareness thing, your self-healing thing, but animal body. Sometimes animal body don't need comprendo, don't need no story. Yeah. And they just get it because of energy. And there's a generosity to ourselves if we allow those kinds of healing processes to happen. Of like, oh, okay, I just feel calmer. Or I just felt a weight off my shoulders. Okay, I don't need to know. Yeah. And I feel like the more masterful you are with your body device, your body vehicle, you will be more able to communicate with others on a body level, because they do say that a lot of communication is not just verbal, it's also energetic and body. Yeah, so not only will you be able to communicate and receive more of these like body messages / energies, especially like think about children. Sometimes their logical brain's not fully on yet, so they're really reading you on an energy basis. Yeah, so if you're calm, they're calm, right? If you're not panicking, maybe they're gonna panic less. You get what I mean? So that's what I'm saying, that there's this opportunity for you to be able to communicate on a body level to other people. Yo, better sex. But also more fluid, malleable body energy. Okay, what do I mean by that? Okay, so the thing is, as our situations change, right? As you know, you go throughout the day and you need different kinds of energy. So you need to be more boss here, you need to relax here, you need to be more extroverted here. It kind of requires a certain kind of fluidity, a certain adaptability, a certain, like, you have a certain emotional range and capacity that you can actually handle on your body. Yeah. So it's almost like your nerves, your soma has more space. Yeah. So that's what I'm gunning for. When you do these things, right? When you're just chilling out, you're waiting for your flight, or even when you're watching Netflix, yeah, expand your spine while you're watching Netflix. As you're like just playing with these body images, right? When the time counts, or when situations need a certain orientation from you, you could naturally adjust yourself. Yeah, because you're an infinite spirit, and thus you could adjust yourself to the situation, and thus you're more effective. Yeah, you have more command of how your energies overlay and format with your body, and ergo, you could transmit more of your energy. It's great, actually. And so, yeah, so when I'm explaining somatics, I know that my pitch is that, yes, you will get health benefits. you you will have more stable emotions and just a better handle, like, on your breathing patterns, more awareness of where you are, better posture, better energy. But I also just want to say that I'm not just going for you're kind of healthy. Nah. What I'm selling to you is mastery. Yeah. So the thing is, okay, so I'm not saying that, okay, everybody has to be a shaman, they can morph into animals and stuff. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that you have total command of how to operate this device, which is your body, and you're going to live with it until the end of this physical lifetime, and you have all the time in the world. You're going to spend a lot of time, at least in this linear lifetime, in this body. So it's a really healthy investment to master it. So that when you get older, you go through different cycles, you go through different trials, or you try to manifest and create the life that's like brilliant and most aligned to your best purpose. You could actually shift gears. You could actually get the right mix of fuel. You could actually point and drive. You could maintain this vehicle really well. Yeah. I know that for disabled folks, and for chronically ill folks, this can get tricky, but think of there are yogic masters who do have some physical disabilities and kind of actually use those as a propulsion for their spiritual manifestations. So, just because your body's generating a lot of pain or being an ass right now doesn't mean that it can't be of assistance to you to however you wanna do or be. Yeah. So I'm just gently offering you possibilities. Yeah. Now, I do sessions of somatic work. If you could book me in terms of, okay, I'll give you some prompts that will best alchemize you. Generally, I do give some verbs and orientations for your body, descriptions of your body when you do general sessions with me, but I also do focus sessions on this, especially with dancers. Like, I've been in the dance scene before, and this is kind of how I do creative process work for artists. Yeah, because a lot of people feel like art always has to be like created from thin air rather than uncovering something from our subconscious. I personally believe the subconscious stuff is more fun because they have more energy. There's more. It's not just libido. It's like it's like locked energy, and then you just unleash it, and it's just so potent. And I feel like, especially when someone's really ready for it, it makes for much more interesting work, and it feels very much more meaningful and purposeful for the artist. So that's how I feel about. So if you're in theater, or you're in the performing arts, you're a dancer, some of these body image ideas might be already familiar with you. Like a lot of visualization stuff you could find in theater practices books. They just don't have that spiritual dimension to stuff. Yeah, and that transformation stuff. So I'm just saying that you could actually weave it into your practices in case you actually sing or you perform. Yeah, you could totally incorporate this to how you work out. That spine awareness while you're doing squats, that's gonna be great. So anyway, that's it. If you're interested to learn more, you could check out my website. You could book me. But otherwise, I would love for you to just feel fully free to use everything that I've said. And do leave a comment. I appreciate if you follow this account, and if you could forward this to friends who you might think might benefit from this. And that's it. Ciao.